Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar for Hello memoQ 9.8. Before we start, let's have a bit of housekeeping. The webinar is going to be recorded. We'll have presentations amounting to about 30 minutes, followed up with a 10 to 15 minutes Q&A session, where we are going to provide answers to some of the questions, and the ones that we will miss will be later replied in writing. Another thing we'd like to do is please go ahead and post your questions in Zoom's Q&A session, as you can see on the screenshot. Today we'll be covering 4 topics, and I'll be covering the first 2. My name is Joel Tvarga, one of the product owners at memoQ. So let's dive right in. The first topic is Regex Assistant. Before I talk to you about the actual feature, let me give you a little bit of background. We had multiple ideas from freelancers on our memoQ users idea portal. Actually, it started out, the initial idea was negative filters, then it soon evolved into something else. Plus, we also combined it with filter in translation pane should highlight string feature request. And eventually, it ended up being this improved regular expression features across memoQ. This idea received the highest number of votes on our idea portal from freelancers, and it incorporated the previous ideas that I talked to you about. Essentially, we talked to a bunch of users, both on the idea portal and on Facebook. We invited our users to share their ideas about regexes, how they use them, what they use them for, why it's hard to use regexes, that is regular expressions in memoQ, what are some of the pain points that they would like us to address. So we actually had quite a bit of discussion and ideation with our users. Then we moved on to a bunch of tests. We did usability tests and beta testing as well of this feature with a total number of 16 users. That was followed up with a survey that you can see on the picture. Right now that 9.8 is out, we are going to release a general survey and invite you users both on Facebook and here via this presentation to give your feedback on a SurveyMonkey survey. We are going to provide you with the link to this survey later in the email sent after the presentation. We are going to have many more features to this Regex Assistant coming in memoQ 9.9, but I'll talk to you about those later. So before we dive in, let me just talk briefly about what the Regex Assistant is and what it is not intended for. The Regex Assistant is an assistant. It's not a purpose-built tool like Regex Buddy or Regex Hero. It's an assistant within memoQ that is designed to help our users to create and exchange and use regular expressions within memoQ. We had the idea in mind to create a tool, an assistant in memoQ that will prove beneficial not only to beginners but also to advanced users. So hopefully everyone will find what they need to be successful with regular expressions in memoQ. Before we look at the actual Regex Assistant, I want to talk to you about a few additions that come with this new feature. As we talked to our users, we were convinced that we needed to accomplish a few other things to make the Regex Assistant successful. And so these side projects included, among other things, this new highlighting option. As you can see on the screen, in the filtering option, you can see that if you filter for a text, then it's highlighted in yellow. How is that possible? We actually added and redesigned the filtering options screen, and we have this highlighting option, which is on by default. If you don't like this, you're free to simply uncheck this checkbox. The redesigned filtering option also introduced matching options that you can see in the bottom left side of the screen. We also implemented this highlighting feature on the advanced find and replace dialog. We added a few buttons here. We also added more options for matching. We actually redesigned the matching section to allow our users to make the most out of the options offered by this dialog. Some of you may not even have recognized that we have this matching option on this dialog. So we actually converted the drop-down into radio buttons. And how can you use the Regex Assistant? Well, just look for the RX icon. As you can see here, if you turn the Regex mode on, then this new icon appears on the dialog. And if you click this RX icon, then Regex Assistant will open. We implemented this Regex Assistant icon all throughout memoQ. So most of you will use it with Quick Find, as well as on the filtering option. So these are the three main areas where we expect especially freelancers to use this Regex Assistant feature. But we have many other places in memoQ wherever you can create and edit regexes. You have access to this Regex Assistant. So now let's see how it looks like. It's actually a floating window, which means that once you have this Regex Assistant up and running, you can edit your text on the translation grid. You can move around, do something else, but the Regex Assistant will still be displayed, and you can move it around on the screen and use it to test some of your regexes or the built-in regexes, and then move the stuff from there to the respective windows. The Regex Assistant has find and replace modes. On the screen you can see the basic the find mode, where you can just type in or paste or use from the Regex library one of the regexes, and you can use that regex then later in different windows of memoQ. Let's see what components this Regex Assistant has. As you can see in the top left corner, we have this Regex cheat sheet. Before we do that, you can see on the screen that we have this replace mode with replace with field and also with after replace field. So, sorry, going back to Regex cheat sheet. If you open this drop down, you will see a bunch of really useful regex items that you can use to create your own regexes or modify existing regexes using these items. So if you pick any of these will be added to whatever is there in the find what field. So hopefully you'll be able to create your regular expressions on the go. Mind you, memoQ's help page has a specific page dedicated to the Regex Assistant as well as the regular expressions. So you have all the background material there in the help to be successful with this Regex Assistant. In addition to the cheat sheet, we have this Regex library to offer to you. As you can see on the screen, we have two sections here. We have built-in regexes, more than 30 of them, and we have a section called Your Regexes. This is important because built-in regexes cannot be edited, and they can actually be modified and saved as your own regexes, but the built-in regexes come with the installation of memoQ, which allows us to change these built-in regexes if we have requests from users to replace or remove or add new regexes to the built-in library. Your regexes, however, that's the list of custom regexes that you create. When you create a regex, what you want to do is you want to test it. So for instance, in this case, I picked from the regex library the regex that says find repetitions. And as you can see, I inserted into the find what field and the replace with field the appropriate regex expressions by simply just selecting the one from the regex library. Then I used the testing round to see if the regex works fine. What I did actually, I clicked the insert target segments command link, and what it does is it pasted the rows that I selected on the translation grid. You can do the same thing with source segments with the other command link, or you can just simply type in anything, or even just copy and paste it from any sort of document or website to test your regex. If it's a replace regex, then you will see an after replace field at the bottom that will show the result of the replace operation. So for instance, as you can see, the duplicate words are removed, and the two words the and and are shown only once in the lower field. The Regex Assistant is really good in terms of regex validation. So if you, for instance, begin to tinker with the built-in regexes, like I did on the screen, I added a plus to the regex in the regex library. You can see that immediately the Regex Assistant says that it's an invalid regex. And also on the testing round, it communicates to me that no matches are found in the testing round. So you can just play around with the regex to make until the regex is valid, until this error message disappears, and until you get your hits, your matches on the testing ground. So once you're done with your regex, you can just click the copy regex to clipboard icon, and then paste the respective regex expression into one of memoQ's modules, like here in the quick find and replace tool. As you can see here, by pasting, I was able to paste the regex under findbot, and then I did the same thing with the replace with. And when I hit replace all on the quick find and replace tool, then memoQ was able to replace two matches. So the regex that I created, or actually used from the regex library, worked just fine in memoQ. What can you do with the Regex Assistant? Like I said, you can create your own regexes. You can type into the find what field, use the regex cheat sheet to create your own regexes. If you're not savvy with regexes, you can just use one of our built-in regexes. Or, for that matter, you can even modify one of the built-in regexes and then save it as your own. In this particular example, I selected the file number plus unit of measurement built in Regex. Then I changed the unit, the word unit, with millimeter, and as a result, my testing round shows that the Regex is successful. It was able to locate the expression where I can find a number, followed by the expression for millimeter. So once I have successfully modified one of the Regex library items, I can just add it to my Regex library by clicking the Add to Regex Library command link. Then all you have to do is just give it a name and click Add to Library, and then it will show up under your own Regex library items. So for instance, in this case, the file number the number plus millimeter Regex is there. What can you do here? You can actually edit your own regexes. Let me remind you once again, you cannot edit or delete built-in regexes. You can modify them and then save them as your own, but you cannot do anything with the built-in regexes, and that's by design. So you can edit your regexes. You can even export your regexes in one go. You can delete them, or you can import other people's regexes by clicking the Import Library. And this is a powerful tool because it allows translators, for instance, freelance translators, to exchange their regexes with one another, or in an LSP or enterprise environment, a language engineer can create regexes, save those regexes by using the export option to one of the network drives, and then inform the project managers so that they can import those regexes to their own computers and then use them from then on. What you can see here as far as the functionality of the Regex Assistant is only sort of tip of the iceberg, because we are going to expand the features with additional functionality in memoQ 9.9. So keep your eyes peeled. We're going to have much more to present in 9.9. Let's now move on to the other area, which is Antidote integration with WebTrans. Just to give you a little bit of background, Antidote, if you're not familiar with that software, is one of the top writing assistant software suites for English and French. It's extremely popular among North American freelancers and LSPs, or anywhere where English and French are used as target languages. As you can see on the screenshot, it's an all-round writing assistant software with language, typography, style, and so on suggestions. So it's no wonder that we had quite a bit of pressure from our users to create this integration between memoQ and Antidote corrector back in memoQ 9.1. Now that was a couple of years ago, and since then we've had repeated requests to expand this integration to WebTrans, or web translation editor software. So here we go. We were able to create this integration, but there are certain prerequisites for you to successfully use the integration between Antidote and memoQ WebTrans. You obviously need an Antidote account. You also need to install Connectix agent, and as you can see on the screen, once you have this Connectix agent installed, you can select whichever Antidote product you would like to use for the integration. In my case, I have the desktop version, Antidote 10, but I also have the option attached to my account to use Antidote Web for the same functionality. And you also need to have a browser extension installed on your browser. And once it's installed there, it's pretty easy to use. Basically, all you have to do is just to click the Antidote icon in WebTrans, and then you will have the Antidote window opening up with the content that you can see on the WebTrans page. In this particular example, you can see Antidote Corrector opening up in the web application. And the content is exactly the same, what you can see on the screen in WebTrans. So whatever changes you make in WebTrans, those will be reflected on the Antidote page, and vice versa. So if you make any changes or allow Antidote to make any corrections to your text in the Antidote window, then the changes will be reflected on the WebTrans page. Let's talk about supported operating systems and browsers. Currently, that is in memoQ 9.8, we support 2 browsers per operating systems. For Windows, Chrome and Edge are supported, and for Mac, Chrome and Firefox. For memoQ 9.9, we are planning to add at least Firefox for Windows and also Safari for Mac. We are working on this with Antidote to make sure that the browser extensions are up to the task. Also, one reminder is that memoQ 9.8 features a lot of things as far as the integration, but one thing is missing: track changes. That's because we need some more development from the Antidote side, and so development is currently in progress, and we plan to be able to release the full integration in 9.9. Until then, if you plan to use Antidote in WebTrans in a project where you have track changes turned on, or if you have track changes in the text, before you can use Antidote, WebTrans will warn you to accept all the track changes or turn off track changes in WebTrans so that you can start the integration. More on that later when we get to memoQ 9.9. That's all for me, and now I'd like to hand back the microphone to my esteemed colleague, Adam.
Welcome everyone. It's Adam Gogetz, one of the product managers at memoQ. Today, I would like to talk to you about source system integrations. Before we jump into this subject, I would like to quickly reflect on the previous part of the presentation. Zsolt has showcased how memoQ is interacting with our clients, with our users, in order to target the pain points that most users suffer from and the potential value gain points where our product improvements can deliver the most value to the most of our users. In terms of source system integrations, we approach this problem in a little bit different angle. We are addressing problems of individual users because problems that we see here are quite unique. Before we jump into this topic, let's define what do we mean by source systems. By source systems at memoQ we mean those information systems, content management systems, content repositories where content to be translated can reside. Integrating this to memoQ is a crucial part of any major translation operation. Every major team that has constant connection with a source system should consider what value it can bring an integrated automation to this system and memoQ. memoQ is following 2 paths when we try to tackle with integrations with source system. One is the product-based approach, which is similar to how Zsolt has exemplarily showcased development of Regex Assistant. Today we are going to inaugurate an update on the content connector as a part of memoQ 9.8. The other path we can follow are the so-called memoQ solutions. These technologies are developed and deployed on demand for customers, and they are tailor-made to the specific needs of the given implementation. I will talk to you about this in the second part of my presentation. First of all, let's talk about what's going on with Content Connector. Along with 9.8 memoQ server, we are launching the Content Connector server and Content Connector client 3.0. This new version brings an entirely refactored encryption method that enables easier deployment and easier connection management when the Content Connector is used with source code repositories as Git, GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket or SVN Subversion. This new version of Content Connector is part of the 9.8 installer, but can also work with the memoQ 9.7 server, the long-term supported version of memoQ. As we are bringing an entirely new encryption method, when you are facing a migration task that you have to move an already installed Content Connector with connections of the previously mentioned systems, a migration tool is needed to be able to access the encrypted data, the passwords and usernames, and to move it to the new location, the new environment of the Content Connector. This separate migration tool is available at memoq.com, the same page where you can download the Content Connector client as well. After the product-based content connection update, let's talk about the solution-based integrations with source systems. Over here, we are introducing memoQ solutions. So what are these solutions? They are supporting the translation process that is outside the memoQ as a product. Furthermore, these technologies are not out-of-the-box solutions. There is not one size fits all, but these technologies are tailor-made and customized for the given environment, the given need, what we see and where we would like to exploit the value. These solutions are built on the domain knowledge that memoQ as a team has in certain technologies. In our case, these are technologies that the content management systems, different information management systems embodies. We have a good understanding of these systems, and we already built integrations with some of these systems, and we are ready to pick up projects of integration needs to these content management systems, information systems, and integrate them to the memoQ workflow and provide data integration between these systems. memoQ has a proven track record with integrating these systems, and we can demonstrate how each integration works. It's reasonable to ask that why is providing integrations as a form of solution? Why memoQ does this instead of using the well-established and absolutely successful way of product development as we have seen with the Regex Assistant, for instance. Over here we are trying to tame a different kind of beast. Given we have two systems, memoQ on one side and a source system on the other side, the problem is how to build an integration between two. What are the characteristics of such an integration project? Let's take a look at the two systems we have to integrate. On the left side, we have the source system that can be hundreds and thousands of different types. Each of these content management source systems have various forms. Even within the single type, the single software, there are various forms how content can be stored in most of these systems. The workflows around creating and managing this content in the content management systems, the source systems, can be complex, and most probably they are also highly customized systems per se. Also, most of the softwares in this field are uniquely implemented. Many of these systems can be twisted, can be altered. Custom developments can modify their functionalities. Different modules can reconfigure each implementation. On the other hand, memoQ is also renowned to have highly complex workflows. We are supporting thousands of different types of workflows, and the software is also highly customizable. As a result, if you try to integrate these two types of softwares, the project, the challenge that we will face is likely to be a highly complex problem that is absolutely unique for the given client, for the given implementation, of these two softwares that we are trying to integrate. What's more, that if I take the potential value that such an integration can bring, it's something what you definitely will consider, that okay, we are going to spend euro or dollar amount of X thousand on this integration. What value will it bring to me? This is something highly reasonable and should be asked at every integration project. The answer will probably function of two types of factors. One is the complexity. Most probably an integration that provides you a solution, a workaround of complex workflow that covers each and every part of a highly complex multi-step workflow with many different decision points and alternatives and alternative routes, alternative passes that the translation can take. If you are providing an automated integration to such an integration challenge, then it's most probably you will save lots of time and effort and avoid lots of errors through an automated integration, a software solution that covers all these workflow steps that probably you had to do manually before. Another attribute that's also coming to play is what volume of translation, source of translation are you going to travel over this integration, how frequent you do, how urgent is to provide a translation for these content. Most probably, the higher the volume, the higher the frequency, the higher the urgency, the more value you are bringing. Sometimes automation and integration can enable you new business models, new ways to generate revenue and income. It might generate you new opportunities. For instance, if an e-commerce website can be translated, any content of it can be translated to a new language in a matter of seconds, it might open up an opportunity for you to grow your business to foreign markets or foreign audience. So definitely we can conclude that memoQ will bring the highest value to its users and clients if we are able to provide solutions for complex and unique needs, as it's definite that there is a high value here in such projects. So how memoQ can address unique cases? How can we work with complexity as such? If we take a look at what products are doing, how products are bringing value to their users, there are different use cases that users or potential users can face when they are working in a certain field. A good product is analyzing and identifying and analyzing all these use cases and take into account that what are those use cases that the most users are facing, where most users need a tool to help them in their jobs to be done. A good product is addressing those use cases and do it where most of their users are struggling, where most of their users looking out for help. memoQ is excelling the TMS market, providing workflows and tools for translations and translation management by providing technology for not just one market, not just one set of use cases, but we do it across several verticals, several industries that have completely different workflows, completely different challenges in their translation, different file formats, different tools that need to help to work with the content that they have to translate and then have to provide a translation for. We are covering the most significant use cases across multiple markets. But even so, there are use cases where memoQ is not bringing you a technology where you have to reside on workarounds and other options than memoQ. This is where solutions can come into play. We are building up domain knowledge in working with different source systems, content management systems, and providing you for your unique use cases when it comes to integrating to these technologies. We are there to provide the technology for your unique case and make the integration and automation between memoQ and these source systems. Today we would like to talk about 3 new source systems where we had built integrations recently and where we are ready to build integration for any of you if you see a potential value gain in such integrations. The first system that I would like to talk about is Adobe Experience Manger, one of the most versatile and widely known web content management and digital asset management system out there. Our integration solution is delivered as an Adobe Experience Manager plugin. So Adobe Experience Manager users can start requesting the translation from within the Adobe Experience Manager user interface that normally they would work anyway. The integration is using the AEM's translation framework. So if you had done any translation before within the AEM, from today after installing the memoQ integration plugin, you can do it exactly the same way, but just simple you have to go for the memoQ as a translation provider, and from that on the workflow is exactly the same as you did it before. On the other hand, obviously there will be memoQ and the memoQ users or the memoQ automation framework that takes care of the translation and automatically channels the translated documents, the translated content fragments as AEM calls to the AEM system. We are working with both the websites and digital assets that AEM can manage. What's needed on the memoQ side is the WS API as an endpoint and the templates that are prepared to take care of the automations through custom scripts that the memoQ automation framework enables. The other system that I would like to talk about is Jira. The memoQ Jira integration solution also works with the Jira plugin, so users don't have to leave the Jira environment. Even with this integration, users can select different memoQ templates or can even work with an automation if that's what needed. The translation works with the attachments and the round trip is also covered with the memoQ templates and the WS API. The third system I would like to talk to you about is the Monday.com integration solution. Monday.com is an extremely versatile project management system that can be completely freely configured from scratch to your own need. You define the data structure from the very first step. memoQ can work with all the content that is handled in Monday.com, many different functionalities, and can build a highly complex workflow. Once we understand your needs, we can build and customize this technology to your needs and exploit all potential value gains in automation in your workflows. This integration also works through the WS API. So these were the source system integrations where recently we built reasonable know-how and built technologies that are ready for further implementation. So please, if you see any potential value in integrating with any of these source systems, please reach out to your account manager at memoQ, and we will help you to work together with us in these integration projects. Thank you.